Hey everyone, it's been a while since my last blog. I apologize for that. And this week is going to be a little different than what I usually write and talk about. But I think it's something that needs to be addressed. As you all know, recently an African American man named George Floyd was murdered by police officers in a terrible abuse of authority and clear display of racial injustice. And this has opened up a lot of scars in our country at a time we're already very divided. So I want to first and foremost just say that I hope you receive my heart in sharing this. It is not to be holier than thou or to add even more division and pour fuel on the fire, but hopefully to share perspective from my viewpoint as both a white male in America as well as ultimately a child of God and a disciple of Jesus Christ. And the reason I'm even sharing this is because I'm reminded of something that was once said, which is that in order for evil to prevail, all that is required is for good men and women to do nothing. And I'm certainly not doing anything heroic here, but I'm doing just some little thing to try to address this and hopefully bring some understanding, awareness, healing, and good into the world. So I want to share this as someone who has always been enraged by slavery and the injustice of the terrible treatment of African Americans in this country. And I'm specifically talking about racial injustice concerning African Americans right now, but generally speaking, righteousness and justice are the foundations of the Lord's throne. So injustice of any kind against anyone is an affront to God. Whether it's African American, racial injustice in America, anything else, it is all deeply grievous to the Lord's heart. And I think it should be to ours as well. And so, again, I never had any racist tendencies or prejudices. I've had a number of very close African American friends over the years, but I was just ignorant of a lot of things and probably still am. And when I use that word ignorant, I'm not condemning myself. I'm not saying that I'm a stupid or evil person. I'm just saying that I was simply unaware of what I didn't know. And a couple eye-opening examples of this in my own life were just in the last 5 years or so. In about 2015, I was in the Washington, D.C. area. I was a brand new realtor, and I had a close friend and mentor who had been in the real estate industry for over 15 years. He was probably the best realtor I've ever seen. He was absolutely phenomenal at his job. And he was a homosexual African American male. And I knew that he probably had dealt with some things throughout his life because of that, but I mean, it looked like to me he was killing it. I mean, everybody loved him. He had just referrals. You know, he didn't even have to look for business. People were constantly coming to him. He was really an example and a model to me, professionally and personally. So that's why I was so surprised one day when we were talking about this listing that was coming up in downtown DC, like a prime listing. And he said something that completely shocked me. He's like, I couldn't get that listing. You might be able to get that listing, Ryan, but I couldn't. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I have less than a year of experience, and you are like the best realtor I've ever seen. And he kind of looked at me with this skeptical sidelong glance. And I'm thinking to myself, what is he doing? I was like, oh, I'm sorry, man, because you're gay? And he was like, no, come on, man. And I'm like, what? I have no idea what he could be talking about. And I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, oh, wait, because you're black? No way. And he's like, yeah, you think so, huh? And then he explained to me, briefly, but in no uncertain terms, how despite a lot of success and blessings that he's had and how good he is at his job, the color of his skin was definitely a glass ceiling holding him back from a certain level of personal and professional advancement. And that shocked me, especially because it was 2015 in Washington, D.C., which is historically a very African American area. It's very liberal and progressive. They've had several black mayors. So I knew that racism had been a serious issue and was really ugly, but I didn't think it was still affecting people to that extent in those kind of areas in this day and age. And I was totally wrong. And I just didn't realize it. Didn't have a bad heart, I just didn't know. And then another example was about a year later, again in the DC area. This time I was in Eastern Market, right by where I lived at the time, which is in Capitol Hill, downtown DC. And I was walking around on a beautiful night with a couple friends. One is a black male, the other is a black female. And it's just a beautiful night. We're walking down the strip, with all the restaurants and the shops, and it was just really, really nice. And my black friend kind of just lets out this sign. He's like, so this is what it's like to be white. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, Ryan, because I'm with you, I get a free pass going through this area. People don't give me suspicious glances. They don't cross the street. They don't put their hands over their purses when they're walking by me. But if I were not with you, and it was just me or me and some other black friends, then it would be a very different situation. And that just shocked me once again. So the point of sharing all this with you is that even though I have a good heart, I've had very close friendships with a number of black people over the years and still do, I just didn't realize what a lot of them had to deal with and still are dealing with. And there's 4 main points that I'm trying to convey here. Is that number one, like me, maybe you're unaware of your own ignorance. And again, I don't use that word ignorance in a negative way. It's just simply you don't know what you don't know. And so I'm hoping to make you more open-minded to that possibility, number one. Number two, to become aware and realize that other than extreme examples of police brutality and murder, like with George Floyd, there are a lot of subtle and very significant roadblocks for advancement and fair treatment for a lot of people. Still, right now, in this country, in this day and age, not back then or over there, right here. And so, having become aware, I am going to encourage you to acknowledge, understand, and sympathize, even if you can't personally relate, to people who are still experiencing this. And then lastly, and perhaps most importantly, based on all those things, to take action in some kind of positive way, even if it's just as simple as sharing a video post like I'm doing right now, or a blog, or writing your congressperson, attending a nonviolent protest, whatever that is. It's not for me to tell you what that looks like in your life, but in some authentic way that you can own and speak from the heart, just to do something to have conversations at the very least and acknowledge what's going on so that we can all work towards a future where everybody is treated on the basis of the inherent self-worth and dignity they have as human beings and children of God. So I hope that you receive this with a humble, open heart and mind in the way that I'm sharing it, and that this is eye-opening and encouraging for all of you to be able to think about this maybe in a different way than you have before and be able to add just a little bit more good into the world. God bless.